Today, we have a very special guest. And so all the faculty and students at Alliant University and anyone who gets a chance to see this, we've got someone who has something very rare in the world, and that is an Olympic medal. And so today's guest is none other than 2002 Olympic bronze medalist, Mr. JJ Thomas. Hi, JJ, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So where are you at in the world? What are you doing today?
I am in Innsbruck, Austria, and we are doing a 10-day semi-quarantine before we head over to Saas-Fee, Switzerland tomorrow for our big preseason camp before the winter with Sean White and Toby Miller and the U.S. team. We're kind of here as a big group, so we're ending our stint here and heading to the mountains tomorrow.
Yeah, you guys have been in quarantine for quite a while, haven't you?
It's not really though. The government doesn't make us quarantine. It's just more the U.S. team has rules we have to abide by, like no eating out, a couple things that it's no big deal though. It's easy.
Yeah, just a little bit of pause to make the anticipation grow, hopefully.
Yeah.
So let's go back to 2002. How old were you back then?
20 years old.
20 years old. So you're 20 years old. Men and women's halfpipe get introduced into the Olympics. How did you make that decision to go for the team and whatnot? Where were you and what was that like for you?
I was still living in my parents' basement in Golden, Colorado. I was traveling out of there, so I wasn't home much, but that was my base. And back then, the industry filming was the big thing. Like my sponsors, Burton and Oakley and Volcom, everyone was like film, magazine, video. But I had a decent year competing the year before. And one of my team managers I was really close with at Oakley, Joe DeRazio, I remember the summer before, or maybe it was a year and a half out, he was like, man, you should really think about going for the Olympics, like all in. It's in Salt Lake City. Just think about it. I was like, yeah, I'm really thinking of it. And I just committed and made up my mind. I said, I don't know if I'm going to have another opportunity to do the Olympics in my backyard. So I need to do this. And I just committed. I started training. And really, that was the first time in my career I went all in on something. I didn't have all these, I wasn't going 5 different ways. I was like, I'm going for half pipe. I'm going to see what I can do. And it was cool. I'm glad I did it for sure.
How much time did you have, like where you initially started the training and you just went full on until the actual Olympic Games in Salt Lake? How much time was
that? Sorry, you broke up. Say it one more time. Let me see if it comes in better.
I was going to say, the question was, how much time did you actually have to train for the Salt Lake Games? How much time did you have to put in?
That's a tough question because ultimately my whole snowboard career up to it was preparation, but I would say about 2 years out, a year and a half, 2 years out, I really decided I was going to do it. And then a 12-month mark, I just went psycho, like trainers, nutrition. And back then, in the early 2000s in snowboarding, that wasn't heard of. People weren't doing it. So I was really committed. So I'd say it was probably like a year to year and a half, 2-year big commitment for me.
Yeah. And so for whoever is watching this video, Action Board Sports really got on to mainstream media with the X Games, which is still a huge event to this day. But
yeah,
what JJ is talking about is back in the day there was a lot of filming, there was movies, there was print, there was photo incentives, and it was kind of the golden years for And then leading up to, current day, there's a lot, people control their own media and control their image and PR. So it's a little bit more difficult. So instead of filming for a video part for 6 months, you could nail a couple of clips in 2-3 days and put it out there.
Yeah, I like it now more, but yeah, good explanation.
Yeah. So everyone wants to know if we think about it, we're coming when the next Winter Olympic comes up, it's going to be the 20-year anniversary that there was the first snowboard halfpipe. It was American sweep. It was Ross Powers, Danny Cass, and yourself. So where's the medal? Where do you hide it? Where's it hanging out at?
Well, for a long time, it was in my parents' basement in Denver, but I just had some speaking engagement I had to do where I needed it, and I had my mom bring it out about a year ago, and now I just put it right in my bedroom. I just leave it out. It comes in this really cool like caskets, like this really cool cherry wood thing. So I just keep that, and I just have it right on my countertop now in my bedroom. I'm older now. I'm more proud of it. When you're young, you're kind of like weird. I don't know. I was weird. Now I'm like actually proud of what I did. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I need to see this. I was an Olympian once.
So at that event, was that the last time you had it around your neck?
No. When you win a medal, you parade that thing around for 2 years straight, pretty much. You're sick of it. That thing becomes a nuisance. You're just like, oh, everywhere you go. Yeah, we want to call you, book you. Bring the medal. Have your the medal. Oh my gosh.
Well,
Yeah.
if you think about it, since the inception of men and women's snowboard halfpipe in the Olympics, coming up on 2022, that's going to be 20 years. There's only 60 medals in the world, and you have one of them, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'll take that. That's true.
Yeah, that's cool. So moving, I'm curious about some of if you got any pushback, because there's a lot of controversy with snowboard being put into Olympics, notably like Terje Hawkinson actually boycotted and stuff like that. Did you get any pushback, or, because basically you guys went on a interview storm after, U.S. men swept it, but did you get any pushback whatsoever?
Not about the event. I think everyone loved the event. The only pushback I'd say we took was the criticism from some of the deals we did, because we were taking deals left and right. We did like a Coca-Cola Nestea thing. We had anything. We were like, sure, you're going to pay us to do whatever, and it was fun because it was the three of us. So we were just going for it. And I think, there was some pushback on the commercial we did. People were whatever. They all had their point of view and their opinion, but at the end of the day, that's what bought me my house that I still live in. So I don't really care what they say, and I don't think Danny and Ross do either. And
I don't think they care either.
Yeah, so that was, I'd say, the only pushback with the media we did after it. But no, it was all pretty cool. I think people accepted it, and I think it was just a big, opening party for snowboarding being actually a cool thing to be in the Olympics, and that it's not bad. It was such a torn situation back then with the core sport being like, it shouldn't be in, with guys like Terje, and then kids like me and Danny and Ross and Tommy Shashin going, we want to compete in the Olympics. Why not? We don't care. Yeah. So it was a cool time. I'm glad I did it, and I'm still doing it. I don't know, 20 years later. Yeah, 20 years later. Now I'm coaching guys to go to the Olympics. So kind of sealed my fate, apparently.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But for those of you out there, the traditional board sports, the big ones, surf, skate, and snow, it wasn't until probably the late 90s, early 2000s that it was just kind of core lifestyle, do competitions, but that wasn't the focus. And then all of a sudden, they became the world's best athletes. So for you, you finish third, you got all this media attention. When did you think about going for the next Olympics?
Man, that's a really great question. I don't even think anyone's ever asked me that. that's a loaded one for me too, because we had so much media on us. And then believe it or not, I went to compete at the US Open about a month or two after the Olympics, and took one of my worst crashes, because obviously I shouldn't have been there. I was mentally burnt out, physically exhausted, tore my ACL then. So I was on this kind of media tour, injured. And between being injured and the amount of media we were doing, it just burnt me out. And I actually I wasn't even hungry for the next one. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was just the combo of physical and mentally, and the stuff I had going on between my body and mind. I wasn't there. So Italy in 2006, when Sean won, I didn't even really give an effort. I gave a poor, like half-ass effort. And then the 2010 Vancouver games, that's when I really wanted it again. That's when I was refocused. I wanted that as bad as I wanted 2002. And that was a great run. And I'm really glad I made that decision too, because even though I didn't make the team, that was really the best I was ever snowboarding ever in my career, competitive snowboarding, where those latter years when I was 28, 29, 30. Wow, and it was so fun for me to do and just prove to myself and everyone else that I could come back and hang and beat these guys, except Sean. There's no beating Sean, but I was just stoked to get on podiums with him, seconds and thirds. I was like, all right, I'm back in the mix. So that's what sent me into retirement, a happy man. So yeah, it was weird. 2002, then I was checked out. I was more into powder and filming for 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I went 8, 9, 10, 11 half pipe to end my career.
Wow. So you've had a really long career if you sit back and look at it. It's been very successful as well. Now, it sounds like 2002, it was kind of like, I'm just a kid. That sounds like a good idea. Let's go for it. And it's interesting, especially with Michael Phelps, that HBO documentary called The Way to Gold. And it sounds like you experienced quite a bit of that burnout as well post-Olympics.
Yeah, I think we all did. I mean, I know Kelly Clark did. I know Ross did. I know Danny did. I would say Danny came back the best from it. Him and Kelly kind of tied. They both bounced back pretty well. But yeah, it took a toll, man. I mean, it's a weird one. If you're not ready for it, it's just a lot. But it was wild. Now I don't know if it's still like that. I'm not sure. I think it depends on the person and their personality. But yeah, I don't know. It was definitely a learning experience.
Well, it's really refreshing on my end to hear that you're doing your best snowboarding, trying to go for Italy, and you're in your late 20s, which is basically like people are peaking at that age in this sport now. And despite the result, it sounds like you really gave it an effort, and you were a professional, and regardless of result, you did the best you could do.
Yeah, and that's the truth. And what I learned was just that, what you said, like, just because I had 2 experiences, right? I had 2 times where I just went for it my whole life force. And the one time I made it, and the one time I didn't. But get this, both times, 2002 and 2010, I wasn't one of the first 3 they picked. They bring a 4th as a coach's discretion. And for 2002, I came in late. I was the last guy at coach's discretion. You're going to the games. 2010, me and this other kid, Greg Bretz, we were tied. No matter how you swing it, we tied, dude. Like, we had the same points. Either one of us could have gone. So I made the team as much as he did, really. But the coaches said, he's our younger guy. Sorry, JJ. Stay home and go do the dew tour and whatever else. We're taking Greg. Be on call. If someone gets hurt, we're going to call you up. I was like, okay. Hang up. Whatever. I was only mad for a day because I know that's just how it goes. If you're going to put yourself in that position to be on the bubble, I got lucky in 2002. They took me. In 2010, they didn't. But I'm actually glad, too, I had both of those experiences, because at the end of the day, what I learned was just the effort I gave and the focus. It was like this narrow-minded focus and effort. I was happy either way. If you go to the Olympics and win a medal, you're stoked. If you don't, I went to the Dew Tour. I think I won the overall event. I made some great money because none of the big dogs were there. They were at the Olympics. I cleaned up. I was like, hey, I'll go watch this at home. And yeah, you're a little frustrated watching on TV because you're like, oh, I know we could do it, but whatever. It's about the effort. I did everything I could do, and that was the end of it. And that's what sent me into retirement, a happy guy, just giving that last effort. And most importantly, my peers, these guys who are kind of my age, who I grew up competing against, I was owning them at the end. And that felt so good.
Feels so
It's,
good.
dude, because even though they beat me for 6 years before, the finish is what matters. That's what you remember. Those last few events, you remember the heydays, but those end events, it was so nice just owning the dudes who owned me for so long. I was like, dude, the tables turned. we're all getting out soon, but it just felt so good. It made my whole career. I was like, all right, I can do it.
My colleague who's a professor at Alliant University, Dr. Ron Stolberg, who you've met a few times, we've done this kind of sports psych discussion where it involves a bunch of the graduate students, and they present on the projects they're working on, and we invite a couple pro athletes to sit on the stage, and you get all these really great intelligent students to just ask these questions, and the storytelling is great. But you mentioned a word which typically is the absolute hardest for any professional athlete. Whether, I've been lucky enough to work with NBA, PGA, NFL, World of Surf, Skate, Snow, and the hardest part of an athlete's career is retirement. So can you touch on that for me? How come it was so easy for you, it seems?
2 reasons. Great question. And there's 2 reasons why it was easy. One, because what I just told you, I gave that effort. I put my life force, no distractions. I was all in on 2010. And at the end of the day, I was so proud of my snowboarding, like my style and just everything, the work I put into it. It was all I had. So that contentment was the number one reason, I think, why I could retire easy. And then the second was, I don't know if it's called luck or fate or what, but the transition that's the hard part of getting out. Taking your Superman cape off is tough, and becoming a normal citizen, that's really not fun. But when I got hurt, I think in 2011, 12, one of the guys I was competing against every weekend and week out, one of the kids I was trying to hang with, and I was hanging with, Louis Vito, him and his coach had a falling out. And he called me and he said, hey, I know you just got hurt and I know you're ripping and you're probably gonna come back next year and compete against me, but while you heal, you want to coach me? I'm in a tough spot.
Louis propositioned you.
Yeah.
That's so
and I was
cool.
like, coaching. I go, dude, let me think on this. This is let me think. I'll call you tomorrow. Love you. Bye. Talk to my mom. And then she's like, just try it. But I knew the minute you make that step, I just had gotten my deals back, my image back. I was back. And so I knew if I took the step to coach, I was more or less saying goodbye to my new sponsors. But something told me it was right and to try it. And I tried it that year while I was on the mend. And I liked it so much that I made the move, So I didn't even have any downtime the downtime is what gets people, I've noticed with my friends. When you sitting around, you don't know what to do. That's when a lot of athletes get into trouble. So I was lucky to just fall right into work in my arena, and I'm still doing it. That was,
what year was that?
dude, that was 8-9 years ago. That was 2011, I think. Maybe just turned 20, like maybe the first day of 2012, but I think 2011, something like that. And that was it. And I liked it so much. I was like, whoa, this is my out. I was like, this is a way for me to stay in the sport I love and stay active. But now I have to help Louis, which is trippy because I compete against him. And sometimes I think I'm better than him, but I got to forget about that and help him be great. So it was the first year was tricky for me mentally, but you get over that quick. And those are the 2 reasons why I got lucky, though, for sure.
So what is more stressful and anxiety provoking? You being in the event, like as a professional, and you got to make that run, or watching one of your, yeah, you know, basically one of the guys that you coach go? What is more stressful for you, watching or being able to do it? Which one's harder for you?
Well, if you're coaching a team, if you have multiple people, it's probably a little more stressful competing yourself at the top.
Right.
But if you're coaching one guy who's technically the best in the world, that's actually more stressful than competing myself, for sure. I learned that this last Olympics in South Korea with Shaun White. Coaching him through that was way more stressful than mine. That was heavy, but stress is fun, right? That's why we do sports. The stress is what we're in it for. I don't want to do this to be like cool. Like, this is kind of fun. I want to be stressed, win, lose, or draw. So, you know, that's what I wanted, and that's what we both got. And he delivered, so it made it sweet. But to answer your question, a private with someone at the top, private is more stressful than being an athlete. Because when you're an athlete, if you don't do it, you just go home and lick your wounds, and your mom tells you you're great, and your girlfriend tells you you're great, and you just move on to the next thing. When you're a coach, no, I mean, I notice it's a real, if they win, you are the best. Oh my gosh, JJ. If they don't do good, JJ wasn't the guy for you. He's too nice. He's not the guy. He just started coaching. You know, you really take it on the chin. So I'd say coaching privately at the top is more stressful than competing.
Yeah. And for everyone that's watching this, there's a really, really amazing video from Sean's goal-winning run. And you can YouTube it, just Shaun White gold medal run. And there's all this lag time, and Todd Richards is announcing it. I forget the other guy who's doing it, but there's all this time and there's all this dead air and silence. And then you see him do the fist bump. When you see him do the fist bump, he's fist bumping JJ. So there he is, second place, last run. And give the audience a little bit of context as far as like strategy with qualies and all that.
Dude, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Literally, my hair's growing on my face. But he basically was in a position where he had to do a run we've been talking about doing for 2-3 years, and he hadn't done. And he had to do it right then on prime time to get what he wanted. And we did our thing, and I kept my cool. He kept his cool. And he's a gamer, man. I knew when he was up there and he was really taking his time before he dropped in, you know, that camera was on, that red light. I was just watching. I was like, all right, this is good. Like, not that he was hamming it up, but he was in his zone. Like, he was in his comfort zone. I'm like, okay, he's got a shot. I was like, I think he's going to do this, even though he's never done it. I go, if there was a time, this is our time. So I was just, you hope they can, right? And you're putting out the vibe that they're gonna, because that's a coach's job, is to exude what you want your athlete to feel. And so that was confidence and calmness. And man, when he did it, that was one of the most when he did it, and then when the score came in, that next hour was one of the most euphoric feelings of my life. It was wild, man. I mean, I didn't know how much pressure I had on me. When that weight was gone, it was wild. Wild.
And prior to that, you guys were practicing in New Zealand back, I think it was like October, November. And Sean was doing the same run and had just one of the worst falls ever. Spent a couple nights in the hospital. And so when you watch this video, he's standing at the top. He's never done that run before, and he has to do it to win the gold.
Yeah, and like you said, we've been through it all, you know. Cut his face in half, concussions, bruised kidneys, livers, everything. It took all that to get him to right there. And what's so impressive about him doing it is how much you have to risk. It's like a UFC fighter. Like, these guys are going in and they could get knocked out on primetime TV in front of the world. They could get knocked out and carted off. or they're going to come out victorious. And he just stepped up. It was the heaviest thing I've ever been a part of. I would just never forget that.
It's really, really amazing. I encourage everyone to go watch that video. So looking back from, 2002 to now and in your role as a coach, what have you learned or what would you have done differently, knowing what you know now and hindsight being 2020?
As an athlete, you mean if I could go back?
Well, no, as a coach, well, excuse me, not 2002, 2011, from the point when you started coaching, what have you learned and what would you have done differently? Because there's no substitute for experience and you have plenty of that.
That's such a good question, and it's so loaded, because the reason I say it's loaded is because each individual person requires a different tactic. There's no set rule I can give someone. I couldn't go back and tell the younger me, like, maybe, sure you could. There's things I could say, but it really depends on the person, the personality, and where they're at that day in that moment and in their career. Are they trending up, down? Are they flat? There's so many components that go into it. But I think if I could tell myself one thing that is pretty universal, it would just be to go back and just remember that as a coach, you are a leader, and the best way to lead is by example. So if you want your guy to work harder, you got to work harder. Yeah, I don't know what that means for you. I know what it means for me, but each coach and person need to figure out what that is. And if you want your athlete to loosen up, you need to loosen up a little and just really lead by example versus trying to, sure, vocalize, but the combo is what brings it home. Because at the end of the day, you're living together, you're traveling together, so you are rubbing off on each other, right? So just be what you want your athlete to be is what I would say the most. And I mean to everything. You want them to eat different, you eat different. You don't want them to drink the soda, don't drink the soda. You want them to loosen up and have a beer maybe because they're too straight edge and uptight? Have a beer, see if they'll rub off, and maybe I'll have half a sip. Little things like that. If you want them to focus more on a certain workout, you go do the workout. Don't tell them. Go to the gym, do your own workout. You'll see after time they look and go, oh, because they look up to you. We're the coaches. We're older and we're experienced. Even though they might have accomplished way more than we ever have, they still look up to us, and we will rub off on them. So that'd be the one thing I'd say. And then the rest, it's just too personal. It's each guy and girl has their own little thing.
Yeah, so it's as if you have to be a bit of a social chameleon. Not only are you dealing with different personalities and different psychological framework, and then we can go into the cultural factors and what they grew up with. And then there's some guys that will throw on Slayer and get super psyched. And then there's some guys and gals that will, just be off in the corner. And you really have to fit their needs, is what you're saying.
And then they all have families, and the families have their huge input, and then they got girlfriends or boyfriends. It's trippy, dude. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah,
And the reason I'm bringing that up to these moving parts, as you know, play such a huge role in these athletes' success.
Yeah.
And it's humongous what a big role relationships play in people's success. So it's as you know, you're a psychologist. I'm the coach, but I just know from watching it and going, okay.
Well,
it's wild.
In all truth, you have to be a bit of a psychologist yourself and figure out your athlete and what gets them motivated, what works, how hard you can push, et cetera, et cetera. It's interesting.
Yeah, and look back, ask them questions. I ask my athletes all the time. I go, man, they won't even know, but I'm kind of interviewing them. I'll go, oh man, that was so fun. That one event, of course, that's the event they won or second or third in where they really peaked. And I'll kind of go, even though I'll know the answer, I'll go, man, where were you staying? Yeah, that's right. Who were you with? Oh, that's cool. What'd you guys do the night before? Did you guys go to that party? Yeah, you did. Huh? You had a beer. I remember that. Interesting. Yeah, cool. And I'm just like writing down notes. I'm like, do that stuff, man. That stuff works. We're all pattern people.
So this year obviously has been significantly challenging. And I think obviously everything got canceled in the world of snowboarding. You guys recently did a U.S. snowboard camp in Mount Hood. Now you're in Austria. Heading to Switzerland or Sweden? Where are you headed?
Switzerland.
Switzerland, yeah. And this is basically the second training camp, and we're 18 months out. So during February to now, what have you been telling your athletes to do during this COVID time?
Basically, use this as a break, because this is probably going to be the only break we get unless another one of these happens, which I hope it doesn't.
Right.
But use this as your downtime to really rest mentally, take a break because you can. No one else is training. This is never going to happen again. So this is your time to actually take a vacation mentally and relax, knowing your competition's not getting ahead, and let's get in the best shape of our lives. But the gym's closed. I don't care. You know David Goggins is? Go to his Instagram. Do his workouts. That dude's body, he didn't even lift weights, and the guy's a machine. Let's just work out at home. So we all just kind of got on the fitness kick. And, my guys are in the best shape of their life right now. I think they're the strongest they've ever been. So we just kind of used it to check out mentally and get strong physically.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it's really great that you've been able to kind of adapt. And I remember it, and I'll get to this, but we were recently on a trip together down in Waco, and your guys, including yourself, looked amazingly shredded. And you said straight up, you're like, I never have to go to a gym ever again.
Yeah. I mean, you don't. We figured out how to get it done. We were building rinky-dink like pull-up bars, and we had a few things. We had like some 25-pound dumbbells and some medicine balls, the basic stuff any athlete should or will have at their house. But yeah, you don't need much. You just need to want to do it and just get on a program and just push yourself every day. And that's what we did. And yeah, we're all literally in the best shape of our lives right now. So we're ready to go.
It's interesting because when people are left to do things on their own, they need someone like you, like a coach or a trainer, to push them. And if you're asking some of these athletes to do this on their own at home, how hard was it to keep them motivated from your perspective?
My guys were good. I mean, I didn't have a hard time with them. They were just ready to do it. There was some times like we'd get a little off kilter on a birthday or a holiday, something would happen, but it's okay. I'm all about balance. Like, I'm not trying to, make them just lift weights and drink water, for 180 days, but I am trying to make them do that for at least 130 of them. Yeah. Have fun, but earn your fun. And they're good at that. Luckily, that's the beauty, I think, of coaching at a top tier level. Anyone who's at the top in any sport, they want it. You're not going to have to motivate these guys much, because at this point, if you don't want it and you're not committed, you're not going to be here.
Right. Great.
That stuff gets, these guys are hungry, and then I'm just there to give little, tasteful kicks and little pushes here and there, just, a little, whoa, that dude's looking pretty strong. I don't know, maybe, just little doo-doo on them my own way. But
so any suggestions, any advice? You've got all these up and coming boys and girls snowboarding and stuff like that. Any advice that you would like to share with them out there, or any parents out there that are looking at making a career out of snowboarding?
Do it. I love it. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just, find what you're good at and focus. Like, get that focus. Like, figure out where, because it's always hard with the guys and girls who are good at everything, because they can do it all. They're like, oh, well, I could do slope style. I could do half pipe. I could be a rail guy. Yeah, you could, but what are you really good at? Like, and where's the most opportunity? You got to like kind of sit down with your team and your team and go, what do I like doing the most and where could I have the most success? Figure out what realm that's in, make up your mind and do it, and don't get off it. Just stay in your lane right there and just do it. And I mean, if I could go back and tell myself one thing, I would have taken the 22-year-old me who was coming back from his knee injury and was burnt out on the whatever, the success and good things, and I would have shaken my collar and said, hey, JJ, you have till you're about 32 to do this. You can ride powder. You'll be great in the powder. 32 to 60, go for it. But this is your shot. So when you're young and in your prime, this is your time. Don't get off kilter. Just stay in your lane. Know what you're good at and attack it. Don't fall off course. Just go. Just know what you want to do. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days, but just stay on the path, man. I look at the guys who did that, and they went to 2 and 3 Olympics, and I could have easily done that, but I was just too sidetracked, and I didn't have people like you helping me. My parents were great, but you need professionals going, telling them what we're talking about. And once you have that clarity and you're decisive about what you're doing, it just, all the luggage falls off, and you can go in and do and try your best. And no matter the result, you're going to be content. And that's all you want out of sports. You want to come out of it safe and healthy, and you want to be content. You just want to be happy. And the only way to get that is by figuring out what you want to do, where's your best shot for success, and just going all in. All in. Parents, athletes, just go all in on whatever you're doing. Put your head down, commit to it. And then when it's all over, just come up and go, how do we do? Did we win? Second, third, last? Either way, if you go all in, you'll be happy. So I'd say do that. That's what I tell the younger me to do. And that's what I do with these guys, even though they got it figured out now. They're not as sidetracked as I was. But yeah, just figure out what you want to do and don't waver, man.
Yeah, winning isn't the end all. Yes, it's
No.
what everyone wants, and there can only be one winner. But what I think you're saying is what I preach to a lot of people. It's you against you, and it's about, if you can put in as much effort as you can and walk away, you should feel good.
Yeah, and you will, and you will. You might not at first, because when you're in it, you're so competitive, and I don't know what losing looks like for different people, but it hurts for a minute, but then the older, wiser you comes around in 6 months, a year, and you're like, gosh, I feel great. I know that's really not that big a deal that happened or that didn't happen, but man, I went all in. I'm proud of how I looked and how I performed. On to the next. So yeah.
And after you describing all of that, it reminded me of a TED talk you gave, and you talked about 3 variables that are super important. And can you describe that for everyone out here?
Yeah, so my TED talk was more or less about Shaun White's story and just what I learned from him. And a couple of the key points that I really got from Shaun were like, just show up to do the work day in and day out. And that's part of being focused. Like, just show up over and over again to do the daily work. He does that better than anyone. I mean, the guy's still a workhorse. He went to the gym. He works so hard. He shows up every day, and he just never gave up either. At the end of the day, I mean, he had every chance to walk away. At one point, I was trying to tell him to retire. We were getting surgery. He was peeing blood. It was bad.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, do you really want to do this? Like, we have to go and do these tricks over and over on icy half pipes. You really want to take that risk? I don't care. I mean, I got you if you want to, but you don't need to. And he just was like, I want it. I'm in. I was like, perfect. Let's go. And the rest is history. But the guy just doesn't have any quit in his bones. It's just persistence pays. And that's all you need to know.
Who else have you seen that kind of driving outside of the world of snowboarding? Who have you seen that type of drive in?
I mean, that Michael Jordan doc was amazing. That just came out. What was that?
Oh God.
That on
Dance.
The Last Dance. I watched that and I'm like, whoa, that's like Sean's black brother right there. I mean, these guys are just so in, you know, I mean, all the guys at the top all kind of have the same theme. You know, you see the Kobe's, the Jordans, Lance Armstrongs, the Tiger Woods. These guys, they're in it to win it, man. They're just like this, like focused. They're not everyone's best friend. They're friendly people and they have friends, but they're not trying to make the whole world happy, because that could deter from their sake. They're just in it to win it. And I like that. I respect that. And when it's over, you can be everyone's friend and you can do kiss babies and whatever you need. But when you're in it, it's such a quick shot you have at making these goals happen as an athlete that you just got to put your head down and just work. And that's what Sean does really well. I mean, he just grinds away. He straight up outworks everyone. You know, everyone's talented, right? In basketball, surfing, snowboarding, skating. But the people who want it the most get it. It's just that simple. They just work harder. And that's what Sean does. That's what Kobe did. You know, that's what Michael Jordan did. That's what all these guys do who have success.
It's what the greats do. Yeah. There's a level of having to be selfish, because there's only a finite time of your career. And if you're going to focus and you want it bad, that's your window.
Yeah, it's short. I mean, that's what I said. Like, looking back, sometimes I still just lay in bed and I'm like, gosh, if I could have 2003 to 7 back, oh, I would love that. Just give me those 4 years back.
Well, on another note, there's something I like to bring up with people. It's called fun facts. And so the fun fact about Mr. JJ Thomas is this. For all of you that don't know, in board sports, there's regular foot and there's goofy foot. Regular is left foot forward. Goofy is right foot forward. So we were on a trip together down at the wave pool down in Waco, Texas, back in July. And something caught me, and I went back and I looked, and I wasn't quite sure what I was seeing. So the fun fact about Mr. JJ Thomas is he skateboards goofy foot. He snowboards goofy foot, right foot forward, but he surfs regular foot. Can you explain that? How did that happen?
I can't, and I'm not proud of it. And you were pretty much, it was the same thing. I snowboard goofy, but then skate and surf regular.
I didn't.
You know, I don't know why. I don't know where. I don't know if it helped or hurt me. I think in my head, I always tell myself it hurt me. I'm like, oh, if I was just one of those purists that did everything the same way, I would have been even better. But I don't know. I have no idea. I can't tell you I don't know if I learned to snowboard wrong. That's probably it, if you really think about it, because I feel like surfing and skating is your truest form of, I mean, that's just instinct, especially surfing, right? When you go to pop up on a wave, you don't even have time to think. You just stand up.
Right.
So I don't know if I learned to snowboard wrong. I think I probably did. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And so to kind of give people that have no idea about surfing and board sports, it's as if he played right-handed baseball, hit right-handed, but then went and golfed left-handed.
Yeah. I don't know.
I went back and watched video because I saw a video of you snowboarding. I'm like, wait a second, am I seeing something here?
I know, it's so weird. I don't know what happened. I think I learned to snowboard the wrong way, probably.
Well, you had a great career, so it couldn't have been that wrong.
Yeah, it worked out. Thank you.
It worked out pretty good. Well, any final thoughts? Any closing statements from you? Anything at all?
No, man, I just had a great time talking to you. You asked some great questions. I've done a lot of interviews, but you had some of the best questions I've ever been asked. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that was really cool.
Best of luck to you overseas in training, and everyone look for JJ on the screen in 2022 in China for the Winter Olympics, hopefully.
Yeah, be on the lookout for my boys, Toby Miller and Sean White, Team USA. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, I think Toby's in the background back there.
There he is. He's probably whipping up some food or something.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, JJ. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you, Christian. Take care.